Today I'd like to talk to you about using Corel Draw for your CNC wiring diagrams. I managed to squeeze me big buff head in between this narrow passageway. I've got this old CNC lathe I first converted almost a decade ago. I've changed the wiring a couple of times and I'm rejigging it again for another controller. And I thought it'd be a good opportunity to show you why and how to use Corel Draw. As you can see, there's lots and lots of wires dangling down, and just to show you how old this is, I've still got the colour code, but it's on the use of electrician's tape, the different coloured electrician's tape rather than the heat shrink, which gets all sticky and peels off. Believe it or not, there's almost $500 worth of equipment in there. It's amazing how it's got cheaper and better over the years. Usually after I've purchased it, it goes down and the functions go up. So I'm changing the controller over and I'm going to take the opportunity to do a bit more wiring. When you come back 10 years later, I don't care how young you are or how smart you are, it's hard to remember where all the wires go and what they're connected for. Now you can use programs like Adobe Illustrator, which is similar to Corel Draw. Corel Draw is popular with the laser guys because it's cheaper than the Adobe products, and a lot of the laser cutting programs can interface with it directly. But you can use AutoCAD Electrical, SolidWorks Electrical, all those top end ones, but they all seem to have ladder diagrams. A wire going through here and it's wire 52 and it shows you from here to there. Go to another page, it's from there to there, and it's good for a basic layout for somebody who knows what they're doing. I'm a visual guy, and when I look at it I say, what's that for? And if you go up to the old ladder diagrams you can find it, but sometimes it's hard to visualize. So for me, I like to make it semi-accurate and visual. By that I mean is when you add text and all that, the space you have may not fit everything in. So I will show you this circuit, this rat's nest that I've pulled apart, and what it looks like in Corel Draw, the basic steps to do your own, and hopefully it'll help your process a bit better. So I'll jump out of these overalls, fire up the computer. I'll just open up the photos. Now this is the schematic way back in 2012, and as you can see, it's fairly complicated. On this particular area over here, we have the pendant coming into what I call the inverter or the variable frequency drive box. Then that goes into what I call the control box. We've got the electronics, that was a red box you looked at, and above that's the pulley cover, and that's got the stepper motor, the air solenoids, the 60 slot and 40 slot discs, and then outside of that over here we have the automatic tool changer and the stepper motor. All those things that are actually on the lathe. So it's broken up into sections. There's a legend up the top and a legend on the side for important diagrams. So I can come back and look at this and I know roughly what it is. So when you complete your drawing in Corel Draw, save it as a JPEG, and then you can have that on your phone, on your computer. So when you need to refer to it, it's quite easy. You say, well, you know, what about the clarity of a JPEG? Well, this is just zoomed to fit into this full HD screen. So I'll just go 1:1 size, and now you can see the detail is very, very clear. Now you can see here all the different color coding. This is the controller box. I'll just zoom out by the scroll mouse, and that's the detail where we were before. So up the top, so this is a JPEG, and look at the pixelation here. Look how far we zoomed in, we still can see. So the colour coding explains what the colour codes are, where they go from and to. The thing with colour coding is that you put on 3 stripes, and when it leaves one direction, the first colour is in the front on the left hand side, but then when it turns around the corner, it's on the right hand side. So the colour coding is from where it comes from. So with me, when you have electricity, where you plug it in from the wall to the end motor or whatever, that's the direction of the colour coding. So that explains it to you. And I've got some question marks here back then. Okay, what pin will I use? So I know, okay, I haven't finished that off properly, and I'll get back to it once I've wired it up. Here with the PDX 122, it was pin 15 for the Mach 3 impulse, and it was on the T4 disc, which is a 4 tooth, and the circuit board, and that's a yellow one. and if we follow that over here, we can see here's a T4 4 slot, make 3 taco impulse. There's the actual wiring for the slot detector, the colours that are actually on the wires, where it's connected to. There is the yellow indicator, comes down, goes through all this spaghetti junction, and you may say, oh, it gets a bit lost here, but then you can find here's the yellow here, runs down here and goes in and is connected to this circuit board, row H, column 4, 3, 2 and 1, and then there's the same colour coding there for what wires are connected. So that's done throughout the whole circuit board, the whole diagram, the whole schematic. So as you can see, bit of work, but this is when you're nutting it out, when you're planning the wiring and all that. So you do that. Now, as you can see, way back then, I didn't have any 12 volt, so I used a pistol drill, and here was the actual battery out of the pistol drill, and I used the charger to go up, and it would charge and had fuses, and here's the plug here for the 240 volts and all that, and I put danger signs where it's high voltage and all that to let me know. So that was basic one, and when you saw the picture, I'll just go on here first. Always put the date on your drawing. You can have revision A, B, C, D, E and all that sort of stuff. But I like a date, and normally to sort on the PC I put, like this is the 24th of the 1st, 2012. I would use 12-01-24 as the file name, as you can see up the top here. That's how Windows sorts it in the correct order. So it's good to find what you've got, where it goes quite easily. Now the next thing, it shows you your revisions. You can have a block up and say revision A, change motor from this to this, blah, 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 blah. But how do you say, oh, I shifted that red wire up 2 inches and instead of going through that hole, it now goes through that hole. You don't really get that in those modification revision lists. But on this one we do. We can see down here on the bottom, we've got the battery, the power supply and the charger. So then when we go to the next drawing, was when and that was in September this year, that's when I brought I installed a little 12 volt power supply. So now that's all gone. So there it is, and there was the wiring associated with it, switch on the side to switch the battery on and the colour coding and all that. So that's now gone. So you come and say, oh, what revisions did you do? I don't know. Immediate. Simple. Don't have to read a diagram, you just have good eyesight. So that was when I started to redo it. Then I decided to hook up the inverter. As you can see, we've got the inverter, but I wanted to start using the controls. I originally got a coolant tank and all that, so sitting there, and that was where I was going to run the solenoid and work it all out. So it hadn't been worked at that stage. So now you see in this area, I've added more wires. Earlier I said you try to make it as realistic as possible or semi-accurate. By that I mean, if you notice over in this area here, because I'm adding more wires, you want to be able to see the wiring. If you have actually wires on top of each other, it will just be one line across there. So you spread them out to visually be able to identify the wires. So that means if you run more wires in this area, you'll have to shift something down or shrink it. So it's accurate, it's semi-accurate, very helpful. Plus these are the actual colours of the box. So that red box is red, the cover is blue, and this one's a darker blue. Just to make it stand out and pop out, easier to see, a visual change as I was working on it. Because I've shifted this one down, this wiring doesn't line up. So each time you make a change, you may have to shift everything around. What I do is I open up yesterday's drawing, come up to the top, change the date to today, and then save that file as today's date. So I can have little changes on one day, big changes on the next. Why do that? If you make a mistake, you can go back to the day before. If you've deleted something, you can then open it up and copy and paste it into the new version. So it checks the revisions, but it also saves you from having egg on your face and redoing things because you forgot to save it. So that was those changes. So then I'm running the PMDX122 4-axis board. But then, if you notice over here, I've wanted control of the inverter. Not only to control the coolant, but to switch it on, off, change the speed, that sort of thing. Checked out the wiring, and you can see over this area, it's not connected, so they're just sitting there. And then you find out just to control the inverter, you need to buy another board. $60 to $80, $90, just to output the 10 volts. Looking around, I said, that's no good. Before I come to that change, on the automatic tool change, the air release, I was going to run an Arduino, and if you can see here, I've got a relay board, and I was going to have the automatic tool change so you can use a remote control or even use your phone. Interfacing, effort in, results out. One has to be greater than the other, so I'll let you decide which one. So I just scrubbed that idea, was going to push it more onto the inverter and all that sort of thing. So that went, cleared up that space. But then I wanted to trigger the air cylinder. And because you only have one relay, that was to switch the inverter on and off. And then I was running the coolant. As you can see up here now, I've interfaced the coolant into the relays on the inverter, so that switches on when the inverter switches on. But I didn't have anything to switch on the air cylinder. The idea there was to either have a micro switch or a proximity switch to sense when the top slide, cross slide was right up in the home position. So that's what that other wiring is, so I put that in, trying to work that out. So as you can see, there's relays and limit switches, micro switches, then I've just changed that to that. So you can see what the changes are. So then I found a new Sun NEV, NVEM for Ethernet. They call it an internet. It's a clone for 60, almost $70, cheaper than one of those boards that just do that. And it had all the spindle control, relays and all that on it, 6-axis. So I ditched the PMDX 122, which I had taken off my SX3 CNC mill, because this was just going to be temporary, 8 years later. So I then said, right, I had to do that. You can see here, it's got the text up the top, it's got the text down the bottom. Now that's only about 4 point. If you know the 72 points to the inch, so your normal documents are 12 point, small text is 10 point, some of this is 4 point. Now, if you go to use that in Word or something like that, very hard to read. But because you can zoom in on this, and don't forget, this is the JPEG only. So this is how zoomed in it is on 4 point, and it's not that blocky. Still quite readable. Here's a spaghetti junction and this wiring, all that's got to change. That's the final version. As you will notice, that's wiring up, but as I mentioned before, it's getting a bit crowded in the centre here. So this is the size of the power supply. I've now made it smaller than what I actually did. I normally do the ratio, so if it's 600 by 300, I try to use that as a ratio for the drawing. Now that's shrunk to get the extra wiring in. Shrunk across here, change the DC tap, so it's just all to get it in. This is a mess, you may say, or a overload, visual overload, or there may be sections that you're mainly interested in. Here's just the wiring for the ATC, automatic tool change. So that's all the connections that I need. Micro switches, stepper motors, air solenoids, the wiring for all the solenoids, the air lines, the cylinder, where it goes. So if I've got a problem with the automatic tool changer, I know what colour code to look for, where the wiring goes, what to do. This is for the inverter. Same thing again, wiring, and this is the pendant, all the controls and all that. But then this is the later version of the pendant. So again, save different versions as you go along and you can remember. So that's the pendant flows through to the inverter box. So that's those two combinations. So I know what wires are going into the control box over this side. This is the pulley cover, and that's the X-axis. So that's the pulley cover and the X-axis, all the conduit, all the wiring, all what's required for that area. Now that's just the Z-axis and the stepper. That's just the wiring for the slots. Because sometimes certain wiring is a bit difficult, so you may need to concentrate on that. X stepper motor, Z stepper motor, and the controller box. So one drawing, save different ways, can make your job so much easier. You can print these out, have them on the machine, or like I said, on your phone, on your computer. So that's all the drawings on the JPEGs. So now I'll fire up Corel Draw and I'll just give you the overview. And I picked this one. This is the one that had all the, when I first put the NEV in, that's the old wiring, and that's where the PMDX used to be, so I have to switch it out. I'll just show you some basic movements. It's the process I want you to think about. So basically, new. Now, I like a large sheet. The sheets that I'm using are A3. Now, if you don't know much about paper. You had the old foolscap and all this sort of stuff. The DIN section is A's, AO, A1, A2, A3, the bigger the number. So what they do is they get AO and they cut it down the middle in half. That becomes A1. Then you get an A1 sheet, and you always cut it in the longest length, and they cut that in half. That becomes A2. Then you get A2 and you cut that in half, and there's A3. And you cut A3 in half, and you get, you're right, A4, your normal paper. So if you do an A3 sheet, you get the resolution when you save it as a JPEG. Plus, if you want to print it, you can print it on 2 A4 sheets and glue it together, or you can shrink it down onto 1 A4 sheet. So just set up your A3 sheet, make a landscape. On the side here you have your text. Now, but this is the main area here. This is your object manager. And like Illustrator, you have layers. But the trouble is, it puts everything on one layer. So if we want text, just do text, draw your box, type in what you want. There it is. That's very small. Up the top is your zoom to fits what you were working on, to page, to width, to height. So that's the height of the page. So as we saw then, we've got a typo to fit. You can double click on it and it'll change to the cursor, delete, or you can come up to menu, text, edit text. Why is that important? Because soon you'll find that you've got different objects on top of each other and they all interfere, and sometimes it's easier, you can't double click, is to use your edit text. So we'll cancel that, and you can make changes to the font and all that. That makes the box bigger. We'll zoom back out, page. Now I just want to show you this. You draw your box. Up the top here is a position. Its origin is bottom left hand corner, so that's 0, 0. So you can move your box, say 100, 100. That's in the X and Y. There it is. But you think, wait, 100's up here. It's actually in the centre. That's from that X. And that little diagram up here, you can click on each one where you want it to go. When you first draw it, if you didn't do it exactly right, that's at 100%. So if we want this to be 100, 100, it then remembers the original percentage. You can never get that 100 back. So that's not that great. It's not that great. You use it on LinkedIn. So you've done that. You can change the outline up here with this little pen. Hairlines are fine, so 1 mil. Over here you have your colours. Left mouse button is fill. The little X up the top is empty, so we can fill it. Right mouse button is the outline. We'll just change that to red. We then can go even another outline. So that's how you basically do your shapes. Then if you want to do a line, freehand, 2-point, bezel, pen, all that. Do the 2-point line, click, nothing. Click and hold. Let go, nothing. Click and hold. Let go. That's now joined together, so you don't have to double click. But now I'll just show you one of the problems. Make this up to, make it 4 mil. Here's your arrow, your start and end points of your lines. So sometimes you may want to indicate where it's coming from, where it's going to, and you may want it to be a dash line. So they're all basic sort of drawing stuff. But one of the problems is now, let's say we put that there, click off, and you will want to click the box. You say, oh yeah, I'll click the box here. No, it's click the line on the box. Click the line on the box. Click the line. Because it's a layer, it is, as you can see over here, sitting on top of it. But what is sitting on top of it is that whole box. Even if you have a line, let's say like this, have a line sitting outside, you cannot click the box, because in the layer it's sitting on top, not the actual physical line, but the bounding box of the line. So you can change the order, but the trouble is when you do that, it's behind it. When we go back to our other drawing here, when you have all these lines, you have to set your layers, A for one component, but B so as they don't sit behind the other. So this cabling here, as you can see here, one goes on top of the other, one goes over the other. But if you've done that, if you put that one on top of that, then that might be over here and that's under there. So it does get fairly complicated when you've got thousands and thousands of lines. So get organised from the start. So getting back here, getting back to our other window, what can you do? Both of them are now moved, but here it's been grouped. So when you group two objects, you can still get into individual objects. We can put that back up here. Then if you come over and click outside that object manager over to here, you then can move individual parts. So now when you click in here and you go to move, it's a whole lot. So if something's moving, you go over and click again, even though the tool is selected, click again, and that will enable you to move it. Now, everything is called a curve or rectangle. Right click on the curve and click rename, and we can call this one, say, power line, 12 volt power, let's say, 12 volt power, and we can call this rectangle. You can click on it, and if you click slowly, it will then auto-select it. And we can call this one battery, let's just say. So if you do this, yeah, it's going to take a while, but you do it as you go along, it's a lot easier. Then we've got 12 volt power, battery, and this is called group of two objects, so it calls everything the same. And you can have many things called the same on the same line. So again, just click on it loose, and we can call this whole thing 12 volt power supply, for example. Okay, so now we've got one object on there called the 12 volt power supply. Then we can just draw something else on here. And we call that one ellipse, but we'll click on it, we'll call it light. So now we have our light and we have our power supply, and you can put text in it and make a group of that object. The layer is called a name. So now we can, again, just slightly go on it, and we can call this work light. So now we have a layer called the work light. In there we can open that up. Oh, there's a light and there's a 12 volt power supply. So if you do that, group your layers, rename your layers, all that sort of stuff, it will make this a lot easier. And I'll just show you why here. So I've got the title, and on the title is the date and the colour codes, that sort of thing. When that layer is active, it's red. So I can hide that. I can lock it, so I can't move it accidentally, and you can enable it to be printed or not printed. I now got one for the x-axis. So remember those pictures that you saw, the JPEGs, I can say, alright, we'll get rid of the title. Now what was the x-axis again? I can drag down, hide everything, and there's everything in my x-axis. I can open that up, and then there's the limit switch, the cable for the X-stepper motor, the X-stepper motor and the conduit. Okay, what's in the limit switch? I've got the cable for the limit switch and I've got the micro switch. What is in the cable for the limit switch? I've got the wire for the micro switch common, wire for the micro switch normally closed. Then on the other end, I've got the wire to PMDX, wire to the ground, wire to PMDX 13. Then I've got the labeling, and I've got the main cable. So if I'm looking at that, which wire is that connected to? I can automatically see it. So I can, instead of I can zoom right in to what I'm interested in, where it goes, what it does, and the information you put on here. Okay, here we go, the stepper motor. That's the A plus, A minus, B plus, B minus. Then that's where they are on the driver. So as you go along, you do it. Yeah, it's a pain, but it's a pain once, and you'll be pleased many times when you do it. How do you then save that? You must select the items you want to save as that JPEG, file, export. In the center here, you have to make sure that is clicked. You can save it as a PDF. It came out quite well with a PDF. There's all your different export options. You can even Adobe Illustrator. There's heaps. DWG, DXF. That's why the laser guys love it. There's heaps. So we'll just say JPEG, and you can add your tag. So we'll go selected only. Make sure it's selected only. Do an export. And there you have your latest version of that particular, okay, I like RGB colour. And it tells you how long it takes on the internet and size and all that sort of stuff. But yep, so then it's done. So that is how you do these matrix shapes. Stepper motor has rectangles and curves. I now tend to name everything as I go, like on this. The text will have to sit above the rectangle, so you get all this and then you find out the conduit's not there. When you get this order, you can drag the layers up and down, add new layers down the bottom. You have to work out what's important, what's not. I'll just show you the control box. I had to have the plain box to be on the bottom and then put in the different controllers as I went, because it was then too difficult with the coloured box just sitting there. Same as the pulley cover, and so you have to work all these things out. Sometimes it's quite frustrating. You want that wire to go over there, but it goes underneath like in here. but it doesn't matter. Here's a trick for you. You have an earth wire, or you have one of these wires. This is the trick I'll show you. You have a wire. We'll make it an earth wire. We'll zoom in. What about the green line? It's quite simple. They've got a lot of toolbars, but we'll just do a simple copy, edit, paste. They've got a lot of toolbars that appear on the side and you can transform, move and all that, but I'll just show you this one. So we know earth is green. Then what you have to do, shrink that one down, and there is your earth cable. Get those two, right click, group objects, group of two objects, hold on it, earth. Move it around, both move. You want to rotate it, they both rotate. You want to shrink, they both shrink. So that's how I do all the colour cabling on the earth and all that sort of stuff, like here. And then these tabs aren't rectangles, they're just lines that are bigger. So as you can see, cold winter night, working away on the computer, nothing on TV, wife's nagging away, kids are screaming, dogs barking. So you just go back on your computer and work out your drawing, your schematic, and you'll get an idea of how to do it, where it goes, and more importantly, when you become an old fart like me, you don't have to remember, you just got to remember where you put the file. So if you found this video interesting and informative, and you liked it, let me know. Subscribe and I'll answer questions. If you didn't like it, let me know. And as always, thanks for watching.